Hi guys, good afternoon. This is Gurpreet. Gail, this is our segment G&G. We're back after me taking some time off after an incident that happened that I publicly posted on my LinkedIn. A week and a half ago, I was conducting my weekly, daily free coaching for job search, and somebody decided to pretty much sexually harassed me on my own LinkedIn segment for job search, where people were writing comments and I was answering their job search questions. Unfortunately, I didn't see the comments until 10 minutes into it, and they were in a different language. They were in a language that I understood. So that's why it was kind of mortifying. I had to take a pause, and I'm not gonna lie, it did impact me. It's still impacting me, and it's a little bit nerve wracking to come back. But I think this was a discussion that needs to happen. A lot of people reached out to me, so I'm grateful for the support, and I'm grateful for the women that a lot of the women that reached out to me, share their stories. Few have encouraged me to do this segment, and hence I'm doing this segment. And I have a guest as well that wants to openly talk about her experience with sexual harassment. So please welcome Alexabeth.
Elizabeth.
This is Alexabeth. I
Yeah.
hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. So both of us are going to share our own stories about sexual harassment. Um, so mine happened publicly, but I want to say one thing clearly, that this is not the first time I've been harassed. I've been harassed few times before, not on LinkedIn as much, but at work. One of my positions many years ago, I was being harassed individual through chat. So a lot of big companies have chat features. You can do communication. So this individual it started with being, I guess he wanted to ask me out for a date. I said no. And he just kept harassing me on the company communication chat feature, chat, like, MSN chat. Long story short, the harassment was getting out of control to the point where I actually reported it to my boss, my manager. And guess what? I got terminated for reporting. I got terminated, and the person who was harassing me got terminated. And usually, and the reason I want to talk about this is because this is the solution that many organizations do. They think, let's not address it. Let's just, solve it by just removing the situation. So in that case, I got terminated. I lost a job, nothing to do with me, but I was being harassed. Second time it happened was I was in a manager role, and it was in manufacturing, and I worked with all men. And it was a company where there was more men than there were females. Pretty much 90% of the workforce, actually 95% of the workforce was men. And this one wasn't as, it wasn't a harassment, but it was still sexual harassment, where an employee basically was making some gestures. I didn't pay attention. And one day, I think it was Christmas, where he thought it was okay to kiss me on my cheek and then hug me. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? So I had to push him a little bit off. And then I was afraid to tell anybody, because last time I spoke up, I got terminated. So I didn't speak up eventually, but later on I did a little bit let the director know, just to make it, because this person was also going to be part of the meetings every day that we do. So I didn't want an awkwardness, or I didn't want things to get escalated. I did end up reporting it. And that one was okay eventually. But the one I recently went through was I actually don't know how to put it into words, because it happened on a platform that I don't think I ever imagined it happening, and it was on LinkedIn Live. I'm not new to doing live segments. I've been doing live segments on Instagram before LinkedIn even came out with LinkedIn Live. And I've never actually experienced it, not even on Instagram, where kind of you can expect it to happen. But it didn't happen to me for many years. It happened to me recently on a platform that I swear by. I live off of LinkedIn. If anybody knows me, I'm so active on LinkedIn. I promote LinkedIn. I tell people to use it all the time because of the advantages that come with using LinkedIn. And to be sexually harassed by an individual by his picture, anyways. I don't know this person. I've never met this person. Um, that can I pretty much could be considered his daughter's age if he has a daughter. I don't know if he has a daughter, but he was old enough. But to do it in a public platform while someone's it's not appropriate to do it anytime, but doing it in a segment where I'm answering questions, I'm coaching people how to land jobs, it was very mortifying experience for me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna downplay this whole scenario. Um, I actually never felt comfortable coming back on LinkedIn Live. I think the first thing went through my mind. I actually had to go watch the video again. I had to. I'm like, did I do something? Was I wearing something inappropriate? Was my hair done inappropriately? What was I doing? That's like the first thing that came to my mind. And I did watch my own LinkedIn Live segment again and but that's just to show what happens when something like this happens to somebody. You start to first think, well, maybe I did something wrong, maybe it was something I was doing that led someone to do this. But it wasn't. I didn't do anything, but it happened. And sadly enough, yes, I'm proud that I spoke openly about it. The reason I spoke openly about it was it happens all the time. This is not the first time I've been sexually harassed on LinkedIn, but I've had men make inappropriate comments towards my looks, and you just block, report, and ignore. But when this happened, I'm just tired. I've openly now called out a couple of more people yesterday who've been harassing me for months. And I'm just tired. I just think this is not a situation anymore. That's why the Me Too movement started a couple of years ago. People, women especially, are tired of this behavior happening to us over and over and over. And all we keep doing is ignore, move on, ignore, and move on. So many people wrote on my post, "Oh, just report and block and move on." Why? And I actually did speak back and said, "Why should we ignore this? Why should we continue to ignore? Why are we so afraid to talk about issues that happen every single day to I'm not going to say it only happens to women. I know it happens to men. Chances of happening to women are very high, but it happens every single day. And I think I'm just tired of all of us just turning a blind eye, keep telling people to ignore and block and remove, or let's just move on because that's the easy thing to do. It is hard to talk about it. It mentally impacts you. It's mentally impacted me to the point where I didn't want to come back on LinkedIn Live. And to you, other people listening to this might be not a big deal, but I like doing LinkedIn Live. I actually like it. I like discussing. I have a platform that I'm very proud of building. I've been building my personal brand since 2015. And yes, as my follower increase grows, and this is something I just analyzed a couple of days ago, as I'm getting more popular on LinkedIn, guess what? The more attacks I'm getting from, and believe it or not, our majority of them are men. Is this a coincidence that men are attacking me more than women are attacking me? Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. But this is just my story. I'm not the only one this is happening to. There are many, many women are going through this who have reached out to me. And here's one who's joining me today, and she's going to talk about her own experience of sexual harassment in a work setting. And she's going to openly today talk about that experience, how it impacted her, and how we, as women and men, can what can we do when this happens to us, and why is it important to not stay quiet? So I'm gonna give this mic back to Elizabeth to share her story. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Okay. No, thank you for having this conversation. That's one of the first things that I told you yesterday when I saw your post. I was really excited for you to open up your platform because this isn't a conversation that we really have, despite the fact that we talk to our close coworkers, our friends, and we know it's all happening to us. So my professional career, I'm in marketing. I was in administration and HR before, but I've always worked in sort of the professional careers, but I also have deep ties in the restaurant industry. Not because I still need to, but it's just something I enjoy, and actually half of my marketing clients are restaurants or locations. So I have a foot in both industries, and it's funny how in the workplace it's treated so differently than in a restaurant industry where it's normal, it's an everyday thing. You have to write it off or you're just automatically fired. We don't even have this HR option. So I'm not even going to address those because that's its own delightful conundrum. But I was working in a male-dominated industry as my first career. And at first, it was just the fact that I'm the only girl. You know, you have to put up with those jokes when you're at work.
Really?
Full time, I grew up with boys, whatever, I'm probably not listening to you anyway. But when I stepped into a management role, not sure if you've noticed, I look a little bit young, but I stepped into the second in command role at my location in charge of over a couple thousand employees as a female and as a young female. And I had one of my fellow managers who was below me, who I had turned down in years prior when we were friends, who started just harassing with comments. But we're in a warehouse where there's cameras everywhere, and it progressed from me distancing myself to him cornering me where he knew it couldn't be watched. And even when we were off work one day and we were at campus, still at a campus, and we were still working, but we weren't in our area and clearly away from even more cameras, where I even got pushed back right in front of a flight of stairs.
Oh my God.
And I reported it to my CEO and the COO, and they gave him the option of giving me an apology, and that's it. I still had to work with him. I still had to live with him because it was a remote works, and not a remote workspace, but out of our city. So we all had a shared living space, and zero consequences happened, and he kept doing it. So I started marking down times. I started pointing out the differences between, hey, you can tell we're stuck in those cameras and it does not take me 5 minutes to walk 3 steps, sort of things like that. Reported it for the second time, absolutely nothing happened. Again. And then he had his own problems at work. He ended up quitting. That's the only reason I got respite, is because he quit. Years later, with the same company, I got paired up with a coworker to run another location. I'm here and he's here. Everyone else is below us. And we're supposed to work together as the duo who's in charge of this location. He happened to be my ex and had not ended on good terms. And I told my boss, I can't work at this location. It's not going to happen. There's going to be cause for concern, and it's going to affect the business. They put me there anyway. Okay, whatever, I'm going to go in and do my job. I lasted a month. I'd been with that company for 7 years. I was not able to do my job. I was undermined. My managers were told not to listen to me. My employees were told not to do what I told them to do, to go around me, to always go to him. And it just became such a hostile working environment that I had to leave. And I'd never worked anywhere else before. I have nothing else for my career on my resume. I was terrified that that was what was going to follow me if I left. But I just honestly, I couldn't take it anymore and just packed up, left the location, and within 2 months, I not only had a new job, but I had my CEO recommending me for a top tier management position at another company because he still respected my work. So my entire fear of leaving that job, thinking that I had no other option, that if I left, it would be a bad thing on my resume that I can't demonstrate all of this hard work that I have done, I thought that would be held against me. And we tie so much of our self-worth into the jobs that we hold that it was like, I put so many years into this and I have to start from scratch again. I had no idea what to do. And then there have been smaller incidences where you'll have people who reach out in your connections. You know, you're looking for a job. I've had people on LinkedIn, not in a live, I'm not there yet, but who I'd be sending out certain connection requests. I'm very tight with my network circles. I'd rather actually know the person and say that I can solidly recommend them than have 500 plus that I'm like, sure, they work in the field. But I had people requesting me and then private messaging where they were kind of leaning towards the I'll get you a job, but I need favors. So it's been an interesting journey, and it's just I've had to come a long way in accepting what happened at my first job to understand that this isn't right. I'm going to be okay as long as I have my skill set. I'm going to keep building. I'm not going to let someone control my income and my self-worth tying to what they want because I set boundaries in my professional relationship. So that's why for me it's rough to talk about, but it's something that I have forced myself to talk about because I find too many people stay in circumstances because they don't think that they have another option.
That's so true. So many people actually recently I was doing some research, and almost 70% of people actually don't come forward. In states they were saying 5 million people get sexually harassed at work, and only 9,000 or something are actually reported.
Yeah.
So that's not even 70%. That's a huge number, stats to think of. And it's true that many people don't report it. And if they do, there's actually research out there that I was reading today, this morning, also stated that when they do reach out, or I mean, sorry, when they do report it, a lot of them lose their jobs over this.
Yeah. Or get demoted.
Or yeah, and it's sad to see this research out there. And I've never looked into this and before, like I've, as an HR person, I've done investigations in harassment, sexual harassment, so I'm very well of the situation. I, a few years ago, did actually a year and a half ago, I did an investigation for one of our clients, and it was sexual harassment. um, Props to the individual who came forward with the concern, but there's so many people that don't come forward with their concerns because they're afraid of they're going to be judged, because they're afraid that they're going to lose their jobs, and they continue to work in an environment that is impacting them deeply. A lot of us don't understand how, unless it happens to you, you will never understand the emotions, the trauma somebody goes through when something like this happens to them.
And especially in male dominated fields, if you say anything, it's like, oh, you're just taking it the wrong way. Why can't you take a joke? It's got that added load of pressure of having to be one of the guys. And it's like, well, no, you wouldn't want somebody like harassing you or touching you when you have clearly put out the no bubble. So why should I have to agree with that in order to be one of the guys? I can still joke around, I can still have a good time, but I'm allowed to have my respect and my boundaries.
Yeah. Gil, do you want to weigh in on this?
Unfortunately, in those male-dominated industries, the systems have been normalized such that that is the behavior. And then any time when people try to act counter to that behavior, the system ultimately protects itself in a very maladjusted and negative manner. But this is also why, I mean, the statistics that Gurpreet is talking about make sense in light of each other. That so few people report because of the punitive nature of what happens to the person reporting it, that they get looked upon differently, judged, fired, demoted, whatever it is, when they've done literally nothing wrong, which is why I think it is so important that the stories be told. Because the reality is that a lot of men live in ignorance of not just what is happening, not just the specific actions around sexual harassment, but even more so the impact thereafter. That men don't see the impacts thereafter, especially in leadership, of what happens once a woman has been harassed, that they're worrying about their livelihood and all of the emotional impacts. I mean, look what's happened with Gurpreet over the last week and a half. And the system protects itself and tries to squash such voices and tries to keep such voices down. And that's why I'm grateful for the two of you, despite it being difficult to share these stories, because the more men that listen to these stories, the more men will not be okay when their peers act this way. That it's not going to be a part of the system ideally in the future, but the only way that changes is that if people recognize the impact it has on others. And that doesn't happen without people sharing their stories. I know for me, it was surprising when I was shaken from my own ignorance about what happens on LinkedIn in terms of direct messages, in terms of the messages that women receive. And yes, maybe it happens to men and it is legitimately bad when it happens to men, but the percentage wise, the occurrences of it are just significantly lower, whereas men do. And so that's why I do think it's important that we have more people like you speak about this, so that more people will feel comfortable about coming out. I mean, you talk about the Me Too movement. Every time that somebody big has had the finger pointed at them, many other women have then followed behind and saying, yes, he did that to me as well, all of whom were too scared to say something in the first place.
But that's so true. Even let's just go back to LinkedIn. It's so true. Even on this platform, it's happening to many women, but nobody wants to talk about it because, again, I was one of those people. And now I'm tired of it, and I don't care how if I'm coming across as a part of my language, if I come across as a bitch, or oh, here she goes again talking about this topic. I just got to the point where I'm tired because it's happening so much. Yeah, first you ignore, then you delete, you block, but people don't come out and talk about this is because we still want, and I was one of these people, and until recently, I also, because I want an image, right? We're protecting our image. We want to be seen as a particular way. As an entrepreneur, I didn't want this to be my label because I'm also using LinkedIn to get clients. I put my work out there. I use LinkedIn is my platform for me getting my clients. And I don't want to, I didn't want to talk about this publicly because of that image. Well, what if my prospect potential prospect client's going to think of me writing this? So I used to ignore. It's not that I used to ignore it, just never vocally, publicly talked about it. And yes, my dad's death has changed me. Last year went through a lot of changes, and I publicly just started writing things or posting things that make people uncomfortable. But these are reality that happens to people that we ignore every single day because it makes us uncomfortable to read. And I can say this openly because being a consultant, working with smaller, medium-sized companies, to even with startups, you know how many business owners don't want to talk about sexual harassment. They don't want to have policies on this because, oh, it's not happening in our company, and we don't want a policy around it because it's not happening. So many people think it's not happening in their company. I'm just grateful we live in a country, US and Canada both have laws, and Ontario and across Canada, companies have to have policies around harassment, workplace violence, harassment, sexual harassment, bullying, substance abuse. And you have to train your employees on this every single year. There's the shocking part that it has to be done every year. And you know how many companies fail? I can give you guys numbers on this. How many companies fail every single day to meet this minimum requirement that is set out by the law? Anybody that's listening, go Google Bill 168/132. The Occupational Health and Safety Act was amended back in 2008 and 2009. The movement started where this amendment was happened and got added on. The bills were passed. Every single company has to have not just policies around this matter, but you need to have an action plan, how you're going to prevent. So it's a preventative program. Also, how you're going to minimize the risks of violence, harassment, sexual harassment, and bullying in the workplace. And you need to train your employees. Every single new hire has to go through this training, and every single employee in your company has to be trained on this yearly. But how many companies actually doing this?
And then how many times unfortunately, I've seen it as being in HR and even just witnessing friends go through trying to report things where their demotion is suddenly tied to emergency performance reviews that were not a thing. Their job has not changed. Their quality of work has not changed. And then you're mentioning on LinkedIn, anytime somebody posts a status trying to relate a tiny bit to their home life to kind of build a rapport with their following that's coming from a female, you're going to have so many more people on there trolling in the comments on how this is inappropriate for work. And this isn't like they're going out and sharing how much they partied over the weekend, which we all know a lot of industries do. This is just something like, for instance, you mentioning about your father or your cultural background and how that ties into your work dedication or etc. And then people will just attack and say, this isn't inappropriate. This has nothing to do with work. When do we start blocking that off and then realizing these are the comments that I'm actually getting in my inbox that are taking it 3 steps further? And now from this comment, I have a gentleman who's been talking to himself in my inbox since 2013 who has showed up at my old job 6 times trying to find me.
Oh my God.
Luckily for me, I have a travel addiction and I work remotely now, which he's not aware of. But police can't do anything about it because he hasn't issued a threat. He just happened to be at a legitimate business. Luckily, this happens to be a work that is quite supportive and knows the circumstances. but there's nothing that they can do except block him off of the platform. And what does he do except create a new account or find a new platform to somehow communicate? And this has been going on since 2013. So when you're telling us, oh, just brush it off, I'm not brushing it off because I've seen it escalate. I haven't gotten attacked in that one circumstance, but I have in another. So when do I cut it off? When he's saying things, when I'm seeing the red flags, when they're accumulating, or after he hurts me?
But that's the interesting part. And I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna, a lot of people are not gonna like what I'm about to say. But we live in a world where we're good with, when we read positive stuff, then those likes increase even more. We're okay with people posting about, and I see this a lot too recently. Oh, my kid is graduating from university, so we're okay with those posts. My daughter's getting married, or my son's getting married, and people are posting this on LinkedIn. We're okay with those posts. But God forbid somebody posts about something that's actually happening to somebody, then we all don't like it. Because this is not the happy environment.
People don't like their heads pulled out of the sand.
Yeah. So, oh my God, now someone's talking about a real issue that is not all about happy and let me promote happiness, but actually talking about a real legit issue that happens. I don't know any workplace that somebody is not being harassed. I worked in HR, and I can tell you the amount of type of situations I've dealt with. People actually don't even understand the mental stress some HR people have to go through when they're investigating harassment. I remember one company I was a manager with, the first time I ever had to do harassment investigation, and I was in a small town. And my boss told me, make sure you change directions, go drive a different direction home every single day. It's a small town. My first HR manager, how many times can I change the direction I'm going home in? And this person was harassing another employee to the point where they were leaving dead animals in front of their house. It was a bad investigation, but yeah, it's mentally draining. And then I had to do another harassment where two men, grown men, got into a fight where one kicked them. Luckily, the other one was wearing a hard helmet. So when he did kick him, he already had a hard hat on for safety reasons because it's manufacturing. But still, these people think issues don't happen at work. Guess what? Issues happen at work. We don't have all the time happy workplaces. As much as people want to promote happy workplaces, we also need to talk about the other half of the reality is their situations happen at work because we're working with humans. And guess what? We as human beings are not perfect. I'm not perfect by all means. But there are situations that happen due to maybe something's going on with someone's personal life. The emotions are coming out at work. Maybe they're frustrated. There's tons of different things I consider. I remember working at one point, I was doing another harassment. And now the thing is, we have smartphones, we have technology. The harassment doesn't end at work. It actually gets escalated outside of work, where people are being harassed over text messages.
Or why do you hang out with everybody else, but you refuse to hang out with me? Well, you make me uncomfortable, or I have a family, or I actually have this thing called a personal life.
Yeah, so there's tons of situations, but we live in a world where we promote posts or videos that talk more about happy and happy, positive things. But when someone comes out with an incident that's happened to them, we're so quick to dismiss them. We're so quick as human beings. Unless it's happened to you, then you'll be more sympathetic and you're not going to dismiss it. But when it's not happening to you, you don't know it's happened to somebody, but we tend to. I experienced this so many times, even on LinkedIn, where people are so quick to dismiss when someone's actually talk about a real issue. And or I forgot the individual's name, But this individual on my post wrote the best comment, and he said, don't dismiss women who are writing these posts by saying it happens to men, or report it, or block it. I've had so many people tell me report, block, and one time I did write back and say, you think I'm a newbie to LinkedIn? I've been using LinkedIn since it came out because I'm in HR. I've been actively using LinkedIn since 2015. I'm not a newbie. I know I can block. I know I can report. But you're missing the point here. Isn't that, yeah, I tag these people, I'm talking about this issue, I block this person, but I'm talking about an issue that exists every single day. Someone's going through this issue, the same issue that I'm going through. There's tens of thousands of females who are going through this exact moment, same issue that I am. I'm trying to create awareness. Let's not sweep it under the rug anymore. Let's not tell people to report and block. How many people do we have to report and block? Reporting doesn't, I don't think anything happens, because let's face it, how many people can LinkedIn monitor? As you said, the person made another account, open another account, right? So yeah, I can report somebody, I can block somebody, but they can open another account. Mentally, let me tell you something mentally that's been happening to me. Now when I get hundreds of connection requests every single day. Before, I never used to think of anything. As long as you lived in Canada, US, I will connect with you, I'll accept. I'm like an open connection here. If you live in a different country, just because, like, when are we ever going to meet? That connection's not, I'm not going to add value to you. You're not going to add value to me. So being an HR, I like to just stick to the territories that I know and I work with. So I never used to accept connection requests outside of Canada, US. But now, when I get requests and it remotely someone looks like this man that did all these nasty comments on my LinkedIn live, or from the same ethnic background, I'm like 100 times more mindful. And I've been actually declining a lot of requests from men because of this incident, because it happens. This one individual has been harassing me, making comments on my looks, watches my LinkedIn videos, then makes comments to me. I told him it's inappropriate. He made a whole stink out of it. And I deleted him. I removed him as a connection, but now he's writing comments on my post. Yes, I blocked him, but I didn't want to block him until I publicly tagged in my post, made people aware that he's doing this. I know I'm not the only one. What people fail to understand is, if an individual is doing it to me, he's probably doing it to how many other women? How many other women are being attacked by the same person that's attacking me? The person that's been sending you messages since 2019, how many other women is he sending these messages? This other individual that I tagged, who I was talking about earlier, sending me these comments. Interesting enough, this it could be a coincidence, but I hardly doubt it. I think me and him had like 30 or 40 mutual connection, and guess what? They were all women. What is the likelihood of someone who is sending me messages on LinkedIn about my looks, and me and him we have 34 mutual connection, and they're all women? All women? Can that, like, maybe I'm making a big deal out of that, but it really bothered me when I looked through the common connection to find out that there were all 34 common mutual connections we had. They were all women, and they were all pretty women. Not that I'm saying no pretty or ugly, it doesn't matter, but they were all women. How can that be a coincidence? On LinkedIn, where I'm connected to many people, but me and this person who's been harassing me through comments, and have all females. And that's what I think made me then call him out, tag him, because just to make other females aware, pretty sure he's doing the same thing to the other females. And what people fail to recognize is the listen, it's uncomfortable getting these comments. Nobody, just picture yourself. How would you feel if you were getting these comments? Someone's messaging you and telling you, "Oh my God, you're so pretty. Oh, you're such a doll. I think you're so cute. Can we go on a date?" Like, you're constantly getting these messages from somebody over and over. You think, I don't know about other people, but I don't feel comfortable. I don't come on LinkedIn for, I already knew this was going to happen because I publicly wrote a post about me turning 40. I'm single, but it was a cultural thing I was trying to address here. And when I did that, I knew that when I openly now I'm going to talk about me being single, that people like, I'm going to get these messages. So I was well aware. But it's sad that when we post something, now we have to sit there and think 10 times before we post something and anticipate a whole different level of reaction from people. But yeah, so now it's like you think 10 times to do something. But yeah, I already knew when I'm going to say I'm openly committing, not that I need to tell people I'm single, but so many people took a simple post out of context and it's like, okay, oh, you're so pretty. Let me send you messages and ask you out on a date because that's appropriate to do.
And I saw your post. It had nothing to do with, oh, look at me, I'm single. Like, it literally was just a cultural relation post.
Yeah, I'm turning 40. I'm South Asian. And if anybody knows South Asians, but I know this is not just my culture. There's many cultures that are very similar to my culture where the expectations of a woman is so different than a man. I'm 40, single, no kids. And the looks and the stares, or the whispering behind my back, I had to deal with that. I had to deal with that when I was going through a divorce. I had to deal with it now because I'm turning 40. Like, but it was to create, yeah, I'm using my platform that I'm proud that I've built to the level I built it. And now I want to use it to create awareness about situations that happen to individuals. And I'm just sharing my story. And so many people actually reached out to me during that post too about my anxiety. And it was more like, yeah, I was feeling anxiety, but also like, well, here's other circumstances. So many people reached out to me, but then there were so many other people thought that, okay, this is the time to let's hit on her because I'm single.
And I never understood that. So why? Because that's happened to me too. It's interesting what you said about the wanting to think 10 times before, am I really going to post this? Because these are our public images that we're putting out there. And when they have a platform like yours, or for me, I work in marketing, but my specialty is social media. People think that they should automatically have access to me because that's my job. Not an influencer, trust, but I still have more than, say, my friend who can cut herself off at like 500 followers. I can't because of the businesses that I'm working with. You put something out there like that, you're emotional, you feel anxiety, you want your friends to comfort you. You definitely don't want more of that sentiment. And guys think, oh, let's ask her out right now. Like,
yeah, I'm not laughing, but I'm laughing because, yeah, it's so true.
I just don't get it. And then also in terms of women coming forward, and myself, I'm comfortable talking about this. This isn't my headstrong platform. You're not always going to see this if you go out and look at my profiles, like this is something she talks about. But within my friends, and especially on Instagram, because of the dancers and influencers that I work with, I am very comfortable putting people on blast after I've drawn the limit. No, block, whatever. You're respectful, cool. You tried, it didn't work. You keep harassing me, I put you on blast in my stories. It's gone to the point where I put a disclaimer out that I will publicly shame you if you go beyond this limit. Like, it's ridiculous. But
That's
then
so funny because I was just thinking the same thing yesterday and today because I kind of did it, and now I was thinking that I'm going to publicly put it out there. If you are going to be an idiot, I don't care if you're a woman or a man. I don't care. But a lot of people forget that this platform, a lot of people forget that this platform, when someone's, first of all, it takes guts to write a post. It takes courage to write a post on a public platform, which so many people forget this one crucial point. Before you write a comment on someone's post, especially if you don't support don't agree with what someone's saying, it amazes me how many people first don't sit there and think, wait, it takes guts. And you know what? One thing I've noticed, every single person that's written a mean comment or rude comment or a slightly rude. Again, when I say rude, it's rude to me. I don't care if you didn't mean it rude. In the end of the day, it's a reader's perspective. I'm reading your comment. I'm going to take it the way I'm going to take it. You can't control that. I can't control that either. But surprisingly, every single person that's ever written a mean comment on my post, or they think they're better than me, any negativity type of comment, I actually started to do this last year. I wasn't doing it before, but I started to do this. And this research, every time someone wrote a negative comment on my post or didn't support what I was saying, but they were being rude about it, I went back and looked at their LinkedIn activity, and guess what? They've never written a post. Ever. They even shared other people's posts. So these people, I have a message for these people who think, let me be an asshole to somebody, or let me have an upper hand on somebody by saying, well, I don't agree with what you're saying. Like, I just had this same incident happen to me yesterday with another female. What people forget is someone's writing a post, they're sharing their experience and that knowledge. Your experience and knowledge can be totally different from theirs, and that is perfectly fine. No one's saying, when I want to publicly say this, is when I write, I'm not claiming I'm an expert. When I'm doing this LinkedIn Live, me and Gil, we're not claiming we are an expert. I'm not claiming I'm an expert in HR. My name says HR superhero, but there's a whole story behind where this name came to be, and that comes from my clients calling me this. Gail is an employee experience. I call him an expert, right? But let's call it specialist. But he's not claiming that he knows it all in employee experience, you know? But so many people like to argue with people and take people's posts so personally. And it amazes me every single day when I encounter stuff like this. You know, you mentally block it, you can do whatever you want. But then there comes a point where you get, and I'm to that point. I had to walk away yesterday because I realized, and this is me now being very candid and saying, I'm not a perfect human being. I can be a bitch. I can't, because it gets me mad. And I've come to realization where this stems from, because I was in an abusive marriage. And now here I'm sharing another openly post, which I'm actually going to talk about. I've talked about this, but more recently I've realized a lot of times when I'm reacting to something, especially towards men, and I just didn't come to realize this. I've realized this before, but more deeply, more now, that obviously I have some work to do on myself. But it stems from being in a situation where I was weak because I was in an abusive marriage, which I'm grateful that I had the courage to leave in a short period of time. But the emotion, these mental impact a situation like that has on somebody, no one can understand unless you've been through it. It's not something, and mental abuse, physical or mental abuse stays with you. It changes you for life. And people cannot understand that part. People expect you to be, I'm not somebody who I was in 2008. I changed. I got married in 2008. The whole 8.5 month of marriage was hell. Like, I can't, I now I don't even think about it, but sometimes it comes out. But it was a nightmare. But me now, I'm proud to be who I am. But yeah, I still have some work to do. I clap back at people who think it's okay to write nasty comments on my post. I have no issues with. I don't write for people to agree with me, but there's a way to professionally disagree with somebody. I've had somebody that constantly kept harassing my posts, belittling me, calling me out, attacking me. I didn't even know this person, but he has an issue with me. And people forget that, listen, you know, we live in a world where everybody wants to promote positivity and kindness, but how many of us are actually kind? I'm not saying I'm the mother of kindness here either.
I missed that.
But I don't go writing comments on anyone's post. If I don't agree, I have a rule. If I don't agree with your post, I'm not saying anything. Because I don't know where you're writing this post from. Just like when I'm writing, you don't know what, how and when, where this is stemming from. First of all, people forget LinkedIn only allows you 1,300 characters, guys. It's 1,300 characters. How can we really tell you in 1,300 characters? We just stick to the main point. And people get that part. But then again, you can't blame these people because the same people are writing these comments have never written a comment. They have never written their own post to know that it's 1,300 characters. We can tell you in 1,300 characters. We can just give you a summary of what we really want to see.
Like, I know that I'm not 100% always going to agree with everybody in my network, but half of the reason I have a network is because I don't want a yes team. I just want to see different perspectives. And I actually have one friend where we are polar opposites. We can't agree on anything. And we have the most amazing debates, but we're respectful about it because we can hold our different opinions. Oh, but my experience has taught me this and I've taken it that way, versus breaking it down to belittling a person or throwing in comments on your intelligence or your looks that are entirely uncalled for. And putting ourselves in the place of even discussing this topic. We saw it with what happened with the catastrophe of the US gymnastics team. Allie Raisman had her entire career transformed where you can't disassociate her public image or her career or her successes as an Olympic gymnast from what happened to her. You have other females that it happened to. Take Simone Biles, for instance, who refused to speak out because she didn't want that associated with her success in her field. Because we have to take that into account. These are things that us as females have to actually think about before we'll even open the conversation, because that label has so much weight that you want to talk about it, you want to support others, you want to give them an example, but you may not be comfortable or you may not want your entire career to be defined by the inappropriate actions of a criminal.
So true.
It's hard to talk about it even after it's happened, but when you take those extra parts into consideration, you're basically negating everything that they have worked for when you mix it with careers. And on LinkedIn, it's opinions. It's like, that's why I draw the line, because I don't want it escalating. I've seen what red flags become, and we know what they are. So either appreciate that I'm telling you that you make me uncomfortable, where it makes you think, oh, what am I doing? Or are you going to get angry about it and kind of prove my point?
And majority of people, it's interesting. And I'm not saying this is just men. Maybe, again, I deal with men. So maybe Gil can weigh on this and if he's had this experience. But again, I'm a female where I'm dealing with men in the situations. The minute you say no to a man, this has happened to me a few times, and even on LinkedIn, they get nastier because it's not funny. And this is just my mechanism of coping. When I'm saying stuff, I laugh. But I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I'm laughing because it's just my way of me coping with things. But yeah, they get nastier. They get
no is a complete
nastier.
sentence.
Sorry?
That's what, as a post I saw recently, no is a complete sentence. And the reality is that men need to recognize the boundaries and respect that. And when women make them aware of things, they need to listen and not dismiss it and not put the, oh, it happens to men too or anything like that. So we're not talking about that. We're talking, about a specific situation. I mean, even on your post about this conversation today, there was a man telling you were wrong about your statistics.
Oh, I didn't see my. I didn't read the comment.
Yeah, there was a man who was questioning your statistics on 1 in 3 on your post.
I'm
And,
going to give him the link
for years in school.
From.
and I mean, 1 in 3 is probably an underestimation based on what we've spoken about and people being unwilling to discuss it and unwilling because of the stigma that goes to them. I mean, another example.
Reported only.
Pardon?
1 in 3 is reported only.
Yeah, and I mean,
is reported. Wow.
And that is even to the point of how ubiquitous this is, and we can't stick our heads in the sand, and we have to respect the fact that this is happening. And the more people talk about it, the more it will be understood, and it gives it an opportunity to actually change. Because there are a lot of men who are, I'll say it, privileged in their ignorance in what's happening, in what women experience.
I was reading this morning that actually it happens so often in media, entertainment, and I believe it. There is a TV show Apple created called Good Morning, The Morning Show. The Morning Show. I love that show, by the way. It's actually about Me Too movement. It's about sexual harassment. It's about how men press women in the entertainment, especially in like the media, and how so many women stay quiet. It's the truth, though, which a lot of people fail to recognize is we're not saying that this is not happening to men. Let me just clear that out. I'm not here to talk about this is not happening to men. I am very well aware that it is happening to men, but the percentage is higher for women. Also, what men need to understand is when it happens to a female, she can't openly come and talk about this because we also now have to sit there and think about how is this going to impact my career, which a lot of people don't understand that part because it does. We already have it hard. And I know people are going to argue about, and I had people argue about this with me when I wrote this, that as a female, we have to work harder to be taken seriously. There's a whole research on this. And as a color woman, I'm a color woman and I'm proud to be color. I'm born and raised in Toronto. I'm grateful to be raised in Toronto, multicultural city. But that doesn't mean that I didn't face discrimination. I'm well aware of it. I never ignored it, but I never let that be I never let that impact what I wanted to do.
Sorry, I have to run to another meeting right now, but I want to thank you both for sharing your stories. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry that I can't stay to hear the rest of this.
Thank you.
But thanks for Elizabeth for joining us. Really appreciate it.
And it's amazing. Like a lot of people fail to understand the challenges that women go through. We already have it hard, and then when we have to experience sexual harassment, it makes it even more harder for a female to come out and talk about this or report it. No matter how many times we can talk about this or how many laws and policies are out there, it doesn't make it any easier for a woman to feel safe at work or to feel safe to come out about this, because how it's going to impact our careers.
And that's the other thing. Take a look at literally this floating banner, sexual harassment in the workplace. It's not going out and putting a label on it. It's not going out and saying, all right, everybody who's listening to this needs to jump up and join the Me Too and join the feminist movement right now. That's not it. We're saying that boundaries need to be established. We need to have the individual right to establish our own boundaries and enforce them and not get further attacks for doing so. Biggest shout out I ever have to do is I worked in the male dominated field. I have a lot of coworkers who were working with me that should have seen what was happening, but like they lived in just blind, perhaps willful ignorance. I have some men who have come back into my life, reached out and reconnected with me in order to say, wow, I didn't realize the lines that it crossed. I apologize. And even the individual I had to work with and ended up ultimately making me quit came back 9 months later and did everything in his power to apologize and say he learned from his behavior. And actually, I am friends with him now because he managed to work on himself and realize that was wrong. And it's just saying that it's not a hate campaign against anything. It's literally just saying we have boundaries. I'm going to stick to them because that's what's going to bring me peace. And I deserve to not live in anxiety. And I deserve to not have to take this home with me and dread coming into work every day.
Yeah, well said. Happy to hear that, you know, some of the men in your work settings, past work settings, have come forward and acknowledged their mistakes. And as you summed it up, this isn't about a campaign or a hate campaign or, you know, this Me Too movement, or this is it happens to women only. It's about creating awareness so that when you are at work, and even if you're a man, you know, look around you. You don't know who it's happening to, but there might be signs that you can pick up and realize that it might be happening to somebody, and maybe you can intervene and you can do something about it. Let's not have blind eyes and think that this stuff doesn't happen at work. It does happen at work. It does. It happens everywhere. Doesn't just happen in our personal lives or when we go out. It actually does happen at work. It's happened to many people. Again, I'm not saying this doesn't happen to men. I'm pretty sure it happens to men. This whole today's segment was to create awareness, and also to create awareness of the impact that it has on someone when it does happen to them. Like, I didn't even realize, and
to talk about
it just clicked to me yesterday, because I was like, why am I eating so much junk food? And I don't want to exercise. And then it clicked to me. I was like, oh, I know I'm an emotional eater. Sometimes some situations create so much emotion for me that I just turn to food. But that's a mental impact. Our words, one thing I heard somebody say this before, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us have heard this before, but more, it's resonating with me more. Words have power. Words have impact. And I think as human beings, and I want to end this on this note, that as human beings, we should be mindful of what we're saying, because our words do impact somebody. We don't know how it's going to impact somebody, good or bad or mentally, but the words do impact. And we are on a platform that is an amazing platform. I still stick by it. I'm still going to say it's an amazing platform, LinkedIn, but we shouldn't take advantage and turn this into a Tinder, or turn this into Facebook, or turn this into Instagram. People should feel safe to come on this platform. We should be able to talk about what we want to talk about without being attacked. I should be comfortable to do my LinkedIn Live without feeling like someone's going to make sexual comments to me or make comments about my look, because I'm not doing LinkedIn Live. I'm not a model. You know, if I was a model taking pictures, I'm not saying it's justified in that setting, but still, I'm not a model. I'm not half naked coming onto these LinkedIn lives where, yeah, go ahead and make comments about my looks or sexual comments, but everybody is using this platform to showcase their professionalism, to showcase their experience and knowledge, and they want to advance their career. And why are we stopping people from advancing their careers and forgetting to be professional? This is still a professional platform. Let's keep it professional. Let's I encourage everybody to speak on this topic. Come forward and talk about your stories, because only if we talk about this, maybe LinkedIn could put some measures. I don't know what measures they can put, but maybe they can do something, and maybe we can keep this a professional platform to be truly a professional platform. But unless we don't talk about it, and unless we don't create awareness, yeah, we're only a few steps away from it turning into Facebook and Instagram. That's how I see it.
And the other thing for me coming on here, my entire Instagram is aware that you don't have to go out and take the same steps I did. You don't have to go out and publicly broadcast what happened to you. But I have been through it, through work, through a part-time job where it's rampant. In my personal life, unfortunately, I have a similar story to yours. I am a resource. I am willing to open my DMs and say, I am a resource for you if you need a sounding board, if you need advice, or if you just need a hug virtually. Let me know. If you want advice, I can help you. If you just want to talk, I'm just an open sounding board to listen, and that's just all I want to put out there, because as long as we have that opportunity within our communities, that's what's actually going to make them realize I'm not alone.
Yeah, thank you for that, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. I know, it's so confusing.
Yeah, because I'm so used to saying Elizabeth, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and I second that as well. If anybody wants to reach out to me, maybe you want to share your story, you want someone to listen, or advice on sexual harassment or any type of harassment, feel free to reach out to me as well. My doors are always open. And I just want to end this segment by thanking Elizabeth. Hope I'm pronouncing
It's okay.
having the courage to have the courage to come on today to share her story, to create awareness, and to open her doors to others who may want to a sounding board or needs advice or just someone to listen to. We just want everyone to know that you're not alone. You're not alone when it happens to you. You don't have to go through it alone. I'm grateful for all the different, even men. I'm grateful for men and women who reached out to me, who lent me their hands, who told me that, hey, if you need to talk, call me, or they message me, reaching out to me and giving me that. I haven't taken up anybody on it because I just needed to process mentally myself first before I can talk to someone else about it. But I'm grateful for that, and my doors are also open. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this segment. Me and Gail will be back on Monday with a different topic. This is G&G segment that me and Gail had committed to doing Monday and Thursday at 12:30. So tune in Monday. Until then, thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody has a great weekend and keep safe. And let's keep LinkedIn a professional platform. Thank you. Bye.